Yesterday, Panasonic just lifted their embargo regarding their new Lumix S5iiX. So I watched all the videos out there from different YouTubers and content creators in general. I've been excited about this camera since it was announced back in January 23. I had pre-booked it, but I just cancelled it. I am staying with this guy. It's just a better camera. Insert hate comments right here. The only reason I was thinking of changing my Lumix GH6 to a S5iiX was because the latter camera is full frame and it's got a brand new face detect autofocus. There has been so much harsh words spoken regarding the autofocus on the GH6 that I have not even used it, and now it's more than 1 year later. I have mainly used the GH6 with manual cinema lenses. So I purchased a cheap Lumix 25mm f1.7 that I am filming this video with. I have also set the focus limiter so that during this video it should be fairly consistent. What disappointed me about the S5iiX is the crop factor when shooting in slow motion, all the way from 48 frames per second. That is something that I am not interested in having, as I had a Canon 1DX Mark II and there was a crop there even when shooting in 4K. It was very little, I think it was 1.3, but it still made the workflow a little bit more difficult, as you have to keep that in mind when you are filming, because if for whatever reason you are changing codec or frame rate, both with the old Canon 1DX Mark II or the S5iiX, it is just making it not as smooth, because you have to maybe take a step back, a step forward. That is something that I do not want to go back to, as the Canon 1DX Mark II had that, and there's no way that I want to go back to having crop when shooting in a different frame rate. Speaking of frame rates, the S5iiX, it doesn't even do slow motion in 4K. It does it in 60 frames per second, I guess, but the 120 frames per second is only in full HD. Again, that is something that my old Canon 1DX Mark II could do, and now with the Panasonic GH6 I can shoot 4K 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second in HD, all the way up to 300 frames per second HD with a variable frame rate. So I mean, slow motion, I love it. It's always handy to have, and there's no crop on it. So for me, the GH6 is just the logical choice. Furthermore, to record all intra or ProRes files on the S5iiX, you have to record it to an SSD plugged into your camera, which is great. I think it's very cool that you can record to an SSD disk. However, I also want to have the possibility of recording all intra or ProRes onto a card, because maybe I don't want to show an external SSD drive connected to my camera, because I might just want to do a little bit more run and gun. A close friend of mine who's a Canon shooter, she was also very interested in the GH6, especially because of its size. Ironically, I think it is a little bit heavier than the S5iiX. However, with the lenses that you would probably match on the GH6 compared to the S5iiX are going to be smaller, so putting it on a gimbal, and that was my friend's concern, because she was used to using bigger Canon cameras on gimbals, so the GH6 is perfect for gimbal work. On the topic of the size, it's also going to be easier to, for example, mount the GH6 on a car, both inside and outside, as it is going to be lighter than the S5iiX with a heavier lens. So in general, the form factor, the size with the lens is only a positive for me. So the GH6 again is my logical choice. Now, the original price of the Lumix GH6, I believe, is the same as the S5iiX, However, there are so many offers now on the GH6, so price-wise, the GH6 has become cheaper, and for that price difference, you might get yourself a lens that you can use with your GH6. And again, they are very small compared to a full-frame counterpart lens. Oh, did I say that the Micro Four Thirds lenses for the GH6 are considerably cheaper as well? So why not? I like saving money. A quick shout out to ARTLIST for sponsoring this video. They are a long-term partner of mine on this channel. It's where I get all my music, sound effects, graphics, because now they have also the new ARTLIST Max that is not only music and sound effects but templates for DaVinci, Premiere, Final Cut Pro. It's easy to find. I've been using them for years. You can download as much as you want to, so I do recommend if you need music, graphics, sound effects, whatever for your YouTube videos or client videos as well if you have clients. Check out the link below and you're gonna get 2 months for free if you sign up for an annual plan, thanks to our friends at ARTLIST. The good things about the S5iiX is, as mentioned in the beginning, that it is full frame and it's got stellar autofocus. However, I come from a full frame sensor. It is something that you need to get used to using a Micro Four Thirds sensor. It's not become, well, I do actually prefer a full frame camera because you do get sexier bokeh, blurry, nice, smooth background, but you have to compensate what is more important for you. Do keep in mind that most Hollywood movies don't even go down to the stops that many YouTubers are using, like f1.4. They are usually around f2.0 or T2.1. Let's not talk about the f-stop and the t-stop and all of that. You don't need to have extreme depth of field all the time in your videos, like a 1.4 or a 1.2, because the background becomes too blurry. So keep that in mind as well. With the GH6, I have the fastest lens I have is this 23mm T1.5 lens from Viltrox, and you can get really nice blurry background using a fast lens like this one, or for example the 25mm f1.7. If you need blurry background and you're crazy about bokeh, you can get lenses as far down as f0.95 for a crop sensor camera, which is more or less a f1.8 or 1.9 on a full frame camera. So you can achieve the same look using a Micro Four Thirds sensor. Again, insert hate comments right here. There are so many more. I mean, I made a list of the pros and cons of the GH6. These are the pros, these are the cons. I mean, the list speaks for itself for me, and I do not care that the S5iiX have blacked out logos and the dials are grayed out, so it's like a very sleek and sexy camera. I don't need to have a blacked out logo. If I want to, I can use a magic marker, and I suddenly have a GH6 Mark II. Speaking of, I do suspect Panasonic is developing a GH6 Mark II with face detection autofocus. That would be killer, but until there's a new GH6 Mark II or something similar, I'm staying with my GH6 for now, and the S5iiX. Well, I just saved $2,500, so it's been a good day. Peace.